Let's picture this for a second. A brown envelope from HMRC drops onto your doormat. You open it, and your heart just sinks. The decision they've made about your child benefit or your tax credits, it's not just wrong, it feels totally unfair. And just like that, one piece of paper can throw your whole financial world into chaos. If that sounds even remotely familiar, or it's a situation you're dreading, then you're in the right place. We're about to walk through, step by step, how you can challenge that decision and take back some control in 2026. Now, before we dive in, I want you to know where all this is coming from. This entire plan, every single step, was put together by the expert tax advisors over at ProTax Accountant. So, these aren't just some vague tips from the internet. This is real professional insight from people who handle these exact challenges for their clients, day in and day out. They really know their stuff, so you can be confident that what you're about to hear is spot on, reliable, and designed to help you get the right result. So that brown envelope, it lands on the mat. You open it and boom, there it is. A decision about your benefits that just makes zero sense. Maybe they've suddenly stopped your tax credits, saying you're not eligible anymore, or they've slashed your child benefit based on information that's just plain wrong. It's a moment that can leave you feeling completely powerless and honestly pretty scared about what's next. If that's you right now, listen, you're in exactly the right place. You are definitely not alone in this, and there is a clear way forward. Okay, we're going to break this all down and make it super simple. First, we'll look at that letter and what your immediate first move should be. Then we'll get into something called mandatory reconsideration. After that, we'll cover what to do if you need to appeal to a tribunal, how to get ready for the hearing, what happens after the decision is made, and, this is a big one, where you can get expert help. Think of it as a clear roadmap to get you from that initial shock to a clear plan of action. Let's get started.
Right, so let's start with that moment you get the letter. It's totally normal to feel completely overwhelmed, but the most important thing to remember is that you have options. Seriously, the worst thing you can possibly do is just ignore it or panic. The system actually has these checks and balances built in for a reason, and you have every right to use them.
That letter can set off a whole storm of feelings. Confusion is a big one. Like, why did they even make this decision? Especially if the letter is really vague. Then there's the anxiety about money. How is this going to affect your budget? Can you still pay the bills? And of course, there's that feeling of just not knowing where to even begin. It can feel like you're going up against this huge, faceless machine. And look, all of those feelings are 100% valid. Acknowledging them is the first step. But here's the good news, the really crucial bit. You do not have to just sit back and accept a decision you know is wrong. The whole system is designed to be challenged. It's a basic part of making sure things are fair. So let's switch gears from feeling powerless to feeling prepared. We're going to go through the exact steps you need to take to get back in the driver's seat. So where do you actually begin? Well, your very first official step isn't what most people think of as an appeal. It's a process called a mandatory reconsideration. And the key word there is mandatory. You absolutely cannot skip this stage. If you try to jump straight to a formal appeal, it'll just get rejected. You have to do this internal review first. So what on earth is a mandatory reconsideration? Well, it's basically you formally asking HMRC to take another look at their own decision. The really important part is that a different decision maker, someone who had nothing to do with the first ruling, will review your case. They'll look at it with fresh eyes, along with any new evidence you give them. Think of it as your best shot to get things sorted out quickly without the hassle of a full-blown tribunal. Okay, you'll want to hear this part because it's so important. You typically only have 1 month from the date on that decision letter to ask for a mandatory reconsideration. This deadline catches so many people out. If you miss it, your options to challenge the decision get really limited. You could even lose your right to appeal entirely. So as soon as you get that letter, circle the date on a calendar. Do not put this off. Now, here's a brilliant pro tip from the team at ProTax Accountant. If your letter is a bit vague and doesn't really explain why they made the decision, you can actually call HMRC and ask for a written statement of reasons. Not only will this give you the details you need to build a stronger case, but it also means the 1-month deadline to ask for a reconsideration now starts from the date you get that statement. This is a total game changer and can buy you some much-needed time. Right, to win this, you're going to need evidence, so start gathering it now. Think about exactly what HMRC got wrong, and then find the paperwork to prove it. For instance, if it's about your child benefit and where your child lives, a letter from their school is gold. If the issue is your right to reside, your last few payslips are crucial. Maybe they've got your income wrong. That's where bank statements or your P60 come in. Just gather everything you can think of that backs up your story. So, once HMRC has done its review, they'll send you another letter. This one is called a Mandatory Reconsideration Notice, or MRN for short. This document is everything. It will either say, "Hooray, we've changed the decision in your favor," or it will explain why they're sticking with their original decision. Whatever it says, this notice is your golden ticket to the next stage of the process, if you need it.
Okay, so what if the mandatory reconsideration doesn't go your way? Well, the fight is not over, not by a long shot. The next step is to take your case to an independent tribunal. This is where you step outside of HMRC entirely and get a totally fresh, impartial look at your case from the justice system. It's a big step up. Let's just break this down because the difference is huge. A mandatory reconsideration, that's all internal, inside HMRC. A tribunal appeal, though, is handled by HM Courts and Tribunal Service. It's a completely independent legal body, separate from the government. Your case isn't just reviewed by another staff member, it's heard by a legally qualified judge. So you're not just asking for another opinion, you're starting a formal legal process.
So how do you do it? First, you need to fill out a form called SSCS5. In it, you have to clearly explain why you think the decision is wrong. Be specific. Refer back to the points they made in that MRN letter and argue against them with your evidence. Then, and this is a must-do, you have to attach a copy of that mandatory reconsideration notice. And you've guessed it, there's another strict 1-month deadline, which starts from the date on that notice. All right, so your appeal is in. Now let's talk about the hearing. I know this can sound like the scariest part, but just being prepared can make a world of difference and really calm the nerves. Knowing what's coming is half the battle. You'll get a choice. You can have a hearing based just on the documents, that's a paper determination, or you can have an oral hearing where you actually get to speak to the judge. Now stay with me, because this is probably the most important tip you'll hear today. The statistics are crystal clear. Appeals are far more likely to succeed if you choose an oral hearing. Why? Because it lets the judge hear your side of the story, in your own words. It puts a human face to the paperwork. You stop being just a case number and become a real person. And oral hearing doesn't have to mean a scary trip to a big formal courtroom. The system's pretty flexible these days. Yes, it can be face-to-face, but very often they're done over a video call, just like a Zoom meeting, or even just over the phone. You get to choose the format that you're most comfortable with, which takes a lot of the stress out of the equation. So what actually happens at the hearing? Well, it's a pretty structured process. The judge will kick things off with introductions to help everyone feel a bit more relaxed. They'll then give a quick summary of the case, just to show they've read all the documents. Then, it's your turn. You get to explain your side and answer any questions the judge might have. It's really more like an organized conversation than some TV courtroom drama. The goal is just for the judge to get all the facts straight before they make a decision. After the hearing is done, the tribunal will make its decision. Sometimes you'll find out on the day, but usually they'll send it to you in writing a few weeks later. And whether you've won or lost, it's really important to know what might happen next. Now, this next point catches a lot of people out, so it's really important to get this straight. If the tribunal rules against you, you can't just appeal again because you don't like the results. An appeal to the next level, the upper tribunal, can only be made if there's been an error of law. What does that mean? It means you have to prove the judge themselves made a legal mistake. Maybe they applied the law incorrectly or didn't follow the right procedure or completely ignored a key piece of evidence. It's a much more technical and difficult challenge. And honestly, all that technical stuff about errors of law just goes to show why getting some professional help can be a really smart move. Understanding all the rules, the deadlines, and the legal arguments is a skill in itself. But the good news is you really don't have to figure it all out on your own. Look, you can manage this process yourself, but having professional guidance can absolutely transform your chances of winning. Someone who knows the system inside out can spot holes in HMRC's arguments, help you build the strongest case possible, and even represent you at the hearing. The experts at ProTax Accountant do this all the time. They've helped so many people get the right outcome.
So if you're looking at a bad decision from HMRC and you're feeling a bit lost, please don't hesitate. You can get in touch with the team at ProTax Accountant directly. Their details are right there on the screen. Seriously, getting expert advice as early as possible could be the best thing you do. Just one phone call could make all the difference.
And hey, if you want to read through all of this in more detail, you can find a complete written guide over on the ProTax Accountant blog. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to their channel right here on YouTube so you don't miss out on any more helpful updates that could save you a lot of time and stress.
Okay, just a quick but very important disclaimer before we finish. All this information is for general guidance and it's accurate as of February 2026. But everyone's situation is unique, so this can't replace professional advice that's tailored specifically to you. Before you take any action, we always recommend that you speak to a professional advisor, like the excellent team at Pro Tax Accountant. Thanks so much for watching.